Being leaven in the world. Before I start that, I want to say something. Is that when we started Joe Catholic years ago, when it was under its old name, one of the explicit purposes of Joe Catholic, explicitly, and I said this to the parish council when I made the presentation to start this, was that this is designed to help men be the spiritual leaders of their families. Okay? And I'm not here to be politically correct. Okay? That's our job. That's our mission. Okay? And we need to man up and take that responsibility seriously and be the spiritual leaders of our households, because your primary job, gentlemen, is to get your family to heaven. Period. If you're a husband and a father, your first mission is to get your wife and your children to heaven. That's who you need to evangelize to first. Then you worry about everybody else. And that's not me talking, okay? These are popes that have said this, men holier than me. That's our job. And as Mark said earlier, you can't share what you don't have. And the people that see you every day and interact with you every day know by the way you live your life whether you really walk in the walk. I think that the greatest compliment a wife or a child can give or say about their husband or their father is that they view them as a holy man. Can your wife, can your children, can your grandchildren say that about you? And if they can, then you're doing your job. Can we all do it better? Absolutely we can. So let me just say that up front. You know, we live in difficult times, but you know what? There have always been difficult times. There's nothing unique about what's going on right now. And one of the things that's gotten under my skin is I'm tired of listening to Catholics and other Christians act like we've lost the fight. Stop living your life that way. I spend probably way too much time reading Catholic blogs, particularly during the summertime. And all I've been reading about lately is the HHS mandate, and recently this whole Chick-fil-A thing, and people act like we've lost. If you know what the Bible says, the church has already won. Christ won the battle for us. He said the gates of hell will not prevail against the church. So we already know the end of the story. So we need to start acting like that. We need to start living our lives like that. But one of the things that I have a problem with is good Catholic Christian people who live their lives being glum. Why would anybody want to have anything to do with being a Catholic if all you're ever talking about is how hard it is or how miserable you are? We should be joyful. We should be attractive to other people in the way that we live our lives. That people see us and they say, I want what he has. What's going on in his life that he's so happy? And I know what's going on in his life. How in the world is he smiling with what's going on back home? That's part of being leaven in the world. To be leaven in the world means to change the culture. Not through laws, not through overturning court cases. Is that stuff important? Sure, on some level it is important. But that's not how we're going to affect change. You're going to affect change through the culture, your own individual sphere of influence about how you live your life with the people that you encounter on a daily basis. What does that mean? That means that people have to see a difference in you. Do you stand out in the crowd, or do you just blend in with everybody? That means we need to be better husbands. We need to be better fathers. We need to be better workers. That people see us and they see that there is something different. Notice I didn't say anything about hitting anybody over the head with a Bible or a catechism. Just by the way we live our lives, the way we treat people. If I may be blunt for a moment, if you're an asshole at work, that's what people are going to think you are. Period. You know, and I've talked about this before. All of us have people that we encounter in our daily lives. Those of us that work, you probably have somebody you work with that you just don't get along with. That's the person you most have to be Christ to. God put that person in your life for a reason. I like to call them saint makers. Because there are opportunities for you to be, yeah.
Eat coals on her head.
But we got to affect the world by the way we live our lives. What people see and how we act. Not what we say, but about what we do. And I think one of the big things that we can do is be cheerful about our faith. I think, you know, it's not one of the stated virtues, but it is. You know, I was sharing with Mark, I don't know, was it last night or Wednesday when we were talking. Everybody know who Herman Melville is? He wrote Moby Dick, I think is what he's most famous for, but he wrote a short story called Bartleby.
The Scrivener.
Yeah. It's a story about I guess he was a Wall Street lawyer, I think is the story. I could be wrong about that. The only reason I know this story is that I'm a debate coach. And one of the things that my kids get assaulted with, my debate students, is all this postmodern philosophy. Most of it's just a bunch of crap. And they gathered this argument out of this book about, essentially it's, how do we deal with the problems of the world? Do nothing. There's a quote from the book that says, I would prefer not to. And that's what they use as kind of their catchphrase. There's a problem in the world, do nothing. And that's what society is feeding our children. It's either do nothing or do whatever you want to do. I do know one thing. I do remember that, I can't remember off the top of my head if it was Payne or Burke who said it, but I do remember this quote that stays with me today. And that's that all that evil needs to prevail is for good men to do nothing.
Burke.
Idle mind is the devil's workshop. What my mother say.
So, what are you doing to be the leaven in the world? Okay? Most of you have already had some sort of conversion experience, or you wouldn't be here. Or you're going through one. Because as Lyndon would say, and I agree, conversion is an ongoing process. But most of us have some sort of experience that wakes us up to the reality that we're not living our lives the way we're supposed to. And sometimes God gives us the gift of giving us those throughout our lives when we need a wake-up call. And the first thing that we need to do is to learn what it is that we need to share. And then the sharing part of it is the hardest part. You know, I think it's probably, I can say this because, I get up and talk in front of people for a living. And Michael could say this as well, that getting up in front of people and talking is the easy part. The hard part is living it. And it starts at home. When was the last time that your wife or your children caught you on your knees praying? When was the last time you sat down and prayed with your family? And I just go back to what I said before, is that the way we interact with people is what people are going to remember. They're not going to remember what you said. They're going to remember what you did and how you treated people. So, that's all I got. If you want to learn more about this idea of, and I'm going to start making a strong push for this, especially in October, because October, it begins the Year of Faith, and it marks the 50th anniversary of Vatican II. So you're going to hear me and probably Mark talk a lot about the Vatican II documents. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If there's not any one that you read, the one I'm going to recommend you read is Lumen Gentium, which is the dogmatic constitution of the church. This is not very big. Okay, it's probably 50 regular pages long. I think this little booklet form of it. And it's online as well. You can read it online in PDF format. But most of what I talked about today is in here. It talks about what the role of the laity is. That's who we are. The non-religious. And what it talks about, it talks specifically about how the mission to be sent out in the gospel, to go out to the nations and proclaim the news, the good news, that's our job too. That's not just the job of the priests and the nuns and the brothers. That's our job. And guess what? Guess who makes up the majority of the church? We do, the laity. And we can go places and be places that the priests and religious can't be. We laugh about the holy smoke, but there are places where they can't go. Can we evangelize while we're smoking a cigar? Absolutely we can. Okay, you don't have to smoke the cigar. But I'm saying, we don't have to be in a classroom setting, okay, to share your faith.
Or in a sanctuary.
Yeah, or in a sanctuary to share your faith. There is what, it wouldn't be one of my talks without quoting St. Jose Maria. He talks about this apostolate of friendship. One way to evangelize is just being friends, having friends. This whole idea of iron sharpens iron. We need other men to build us up, not just here, but personal friends that lift you up and not pull you down. Right? Where you can have conversations like this. That life's more about, being a guy is more than talking about sports and whatever else guys talk about. Sports, tools, guns, whatever, cars, girls.
Surgeries.
So,
8 minutes.
all right, so any questions, comments, concerns?